My name is Christian, and I'm here to talk about a open source project that I'm doing on the side called LCAx, and it's exchange format for LCA projects. I will just quickly give a short introduction to myself. I just recently started my own company, but previously I worked in a big Scandinavian architecture firm, Academia, where we did a lot with LCA, and that's basically while I worked there, this idea for LCAx happened, and I will just try to frame a little bit some of the challenges that the LCA, like not industry, but like the professionals who works with LCA, what kind of challenges they face. So as you all know, sustainability, CO2 calculations, and LCA is becoming increasingly relevant. And last September, there came a report from it is a group called Carbon Leadership Forum, and they released this report talking about what kind of new things that they see should come within the LCA world to kind of face the climate challenges that we have, and how do we get to the point where we need to be. And this is some of the headlines. And like the top one, I think also for kind of this event, is that they address that LCA data, the underlying environmental data on materials, products, needs to be open, needs to be more transparent, needs to be more accessible than it is today to really kind of move the needle. You need to have ways where you can compare different LCAs with other LCAs for projects. You need to be able to do that on project level, and you need to be able to trust in the different in the data that is there, and it needs to be reliable. Then they're talking about it should be kind of globally harmonized, and basically meaning that they think there's too many standards around the world. The US is using a different one than the European one, and they don't really align, all these things. And then there's a last point is that there's quite a rapid development in new materials, new processes, and so on. And kind of the technology and the data that we use is usually lagging a bit behind. But if you want to use these new materials, you need to have these data, you need to have the environmental certification. Otherwise, it's not coming into your building. So even if there's a really nice new material that's low impact, you can't use it because it's not, it doesn't have any data. So that is some of the things that they address or that they point out that we should address as a community, as professionals. And then I just have a different example. So I think it's 2 weeks ago in Denmark there came this report out from the Construction Action Tank for Sustainability, and they want to be a bit more fancy than just a think tank, but that's basically what they is. There's an industry organization called Danish Industry, and they pulled almost 90 different companies, organizations together, had a lot of workshop meetings, and they came up with 33 recommendations for the Danish building sector, construction sector, what they think we should do to meet the Paris Agreement. And I've just pulled out some of the things that I think is important for that. From that report, that's obviously many more points, but what I think is kind of feeding my agenda, or what I'm passionate about, is that they have a lot of stuff about data. They need better data, more reliable data, basically data to make decisions. And I think one of the, I think it's a very big dreamy thing, but they want to have this common language for construction data, which I think is very interesting, and it's kind of an umbrella concept for what my LCAx project is about. LCAx is kind of the step down. It's very narrowed towards the LCA, but it's kind of a part of if you made some kind of universal language for construction data. Then they're missing some search engines for finding good environmental data. That's basically as the same report talked about. Then I think it's interesting to say they want to have a reporting standard, which is like basically a reporting format for LCA. Last year, January 23, it became mandatory to when you want to have a building permit in Denmark that you should hand in a LCA report. Or basically, if you have a big project, more than 1,000 square meters, you have to be below a threshold. And how do you report? It's nice to have a requirement like that, but like how do you report something? Do you just like say, oh, my building is 12 kilos of CO2? Or like how do you really report? Should it be PDF and so on? That's some of the things they think is missing in this report. Yeah, and many more things. But then what is LCAx and how does it feed into these kind of wishes that comes from the industry? So as I said in the beginning, it is an exchange format for LCA projects. And the emphasis is it should be machine and human readable. So you should be able to automate with code, computers on top. And it should also be so that you can sit and you can open a file and you can actually understand what is inside, both for like quality assurance things, but also just like to figure out what's going on. And then another core component is that it should be open source. Basically, everybody should be able to use it, and there should be as little friction to implement it in existing software. So the core concept is there's a data structure. We define some fields, like there's a project name, there's a list of materials, different things. That's the data structure, and that's what kind of makes up the center of LCAx. And then instead of having just basically it's the standard, but not to have it like just say a different standard, we wanted to make a layer of converters so people can convert their existing LCA projects to LCAx easily so that they don't need to build it themselves necessarily. And there's also a way to kickstart adoption, is the idea, to provide some converters. And then another core feature or like tool is to be able to validate it. So since it's machine readable and the way it's built up, it makes it really easy to validate the data inside. And the idea is, I will talk about it later, but basically you can make custom rules and check for if there's something missing, like did you put enough data inside, all these things that actually for some, depending on where you're sitting in the value chain, actually it's a big thing that you check the data, you check the projects, again, like a quality assurance thing. What kind of challenges does LCAx solve? So this is, I like this diagram. It's basically what we're trying to solve is this: how do we compare 3 different projects? How do you find between 3 different projects what is the best construction? Who has the most square meters of roof, walls? Why are they different? Especially if you made it in 3 different LCA softwares. They all 3 of them, they have their own internal data structure. Maybe it's a little bit hard to export the data. How do you how do you do it? Like, how do you do data analysis on these things? And that's really where LCAx wants to help, or wants to be that kind of infrastructure that can do that. You export your buildings to LCAx, and suddenly it kind of opens up this world of things you can do with the data, analyze it, and so on. And that's that problem with comparing things. It's between software. It happens inside of companies. Like, you made 50 LCAs. How do you find out which project was best? Like, what construction is good? All these things. It's also just within a project, like, how do you drill down? How do you compare, if you're the state, how do you compare different companies? How good are they at making LCAs and so on? I talked about the content, but that's basically the validation. So inside, if we open up the data structure a little bit, so we propose, or like LCA is made of 4 levels. So there's like a top level, which is basically like the project name, project ID, where's the address, where's it located, like overall things. And then the next step is the assembly, so basically the building components. And the building components has, here as you can see, it has different products inside, or different layers. That's a different level in the structure. And then in the end, you apply a EPD or some environmental data to your product. So you basically can take the quantities together with the environmental values, and then you can sum up in the end. So inside, so here in the EPD, we made another format. This is like a little inside of LCAx we have this EPDX, because EPDs, they come in different formats. So we have for example, the ILCD, that's a European standard. There's OpenEPD from EC3, which is a big American organization that publishes EPDs. ICE is a British standard that they use to publish EPDs in, and there's many more basically. So the idea is that if you want to do this, like a quite essential part is that how do you handle EPDs? Like, they come from different sources. You have to translate them into something kind of common, something similar. You need some converters to do that. That's basically the EPDX converters and the format. So you can kind of put EPDX between you and the different EPDs and get some reasonable data out. And I just wanted here to show a little video of what it means, basically what it does mean to have EPDX and like some kind of structured data. So now this is just a video, but I made a little app that works a bit like Google, and basically it builds on top of the EPDX format to give you like the search interface. So here we're just like searching some generic material that the Danish government provides. They provide it in an Excel sheet, so it's not really possible to do these things without turning it into a different format. And then you can make a little app where all these fields, they are structured. You can make the graph without actually there's very few lines of code for something like this. And that's some of the things you unlock when you have like a structured data format. So it's here's the example with EPDX, but it's basically the same you can do for LCAx, because you suddenly have data structure that is structured and nice to work with. So in principle, LCAx comes as a library. It's a software library, and it works for Rust, Python, JavaScript and TypeScript, and C#. And I made a documentation page where you can go in and read about it, just the format, but also how can I install it, how does it work. basically a place where you can see the documentation. The link is down there. But as I said in kind of the beginning, the code is open source. It's all on GitHub. You can access it here on the URL on the link, and basically you can also pull it down, make changes, make a PR if you want to. We are very happy to get some feedback on it. And just a little bit about the technologies that we use. So like the reason why we can deliver, or LCAx can deliver all these nice features like validation and so on, is that it builds on like standard web technologies like JSON and the JSON schema. And then, as I said before, it comes out in different formats, different libraries for different languages. Again, with the philosophy that it should be easy to adapt for people who want to implement it in their piece of software. If it doesn't matter if you are kind of a LCA tool provider, or you are somebody who wants to make a Grasshopper script, some component where you want to work with EPDs. Like, it should be easy to kind of install, and then you can translate the EPDs, the data you get down, into LCAx and EPDs. Then again on GitHub, this is a screenshot from the LCAx repo. There's a forum where you can go in and introduce yourself, or you can ask questions. And I just have a little roadmap that's also on GitHub that you can go in and see what we want to do in 24. This is the headlines. There's a lot of improvements to the current formats. It's still like kind of in a beta format. It's like we proposed this format, and now we want to improve it, make it better, get feedback from everybody. The documentation needs to be better, and then we want to start building some of these converters, validators, and also a calculation engine. I hope we have time to do that, or find time to do it. Basically, so we can address some of all the things I talked about in the beginning from these reports that came out previously. Yeah. We really like to get some feedback for people to try it out. I already have a few guys, I think there's 2 projects that is implementing LCAx in their tools, which is really cool. But otherwise, the forum is there to ask questions, send bug reports, yeah, everything. More links to the discussion where you can pitch in. Yeah, that's it. Any questions? Yeah?
You talked about comparability of data, and that you have put, for example, surface area in it to compare, like maybe this is the concrete surface and so on. But interesting would also be like comparing buildings by the nature. Like, for example, you have hospital A, hospital B,
Yeah.
and maybe one has a better performance. And you find out because it's not always straightforward.
Yeah.
Does your schema also have like options that we can get levels deeper to the?
And like you think like
the topology of a building, like the dependencies of what makes a building interesting, because this would be the full aspect of it.
Yeah.
Not just purely the data, but really the context of the data.
So what you can do on each level, it's possible to put in metadata. So, for example, on the project level, you could have like some information that you put in about the type or the context or the site location or whatever. And if you do that for like let's say that in your company you want to have these because you know down the line you want to compare these parameters that's not in the format, then it's up to you, and it's kind of additional information that you're free to put in. I think we only like provides from the format itself like some like type or something, so you can say this is office or this is a hospital or something. So it's quite basic in that way.
Did you, in your past experience, and also like in the, because like Copenhagen and the area around, they are very advanced. And
Yeah.
Did you see companies who are trying to go levels deeper and trying to find commonalities?
I've seen somebody try to do it, but they hit the wall really quickly because you don't, like you can open it up like a LCA up in your LCA program, and then you can do the analysis they allow. But then you're a little bit stuck there because then you have to open it, another one in the same program, and then you have two windows, and then you can see this bar is a bit lower than this bar, and like so people don't really do it, and like I think some wants to like they don't know they can export it maybe, and then they want to put it into Power BI, and like it like people they don't get very far. So it's a bit this very like we have this good example and this is good, but then you can't really compare.
And then it's the next level. First we figure out the data aspect, and then we can.
Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I came late, but and you may have covered this, but I have two questions. Number one, have you approached any open standards bodies with this, like Building Smart or SEN or ISO? Yeah, I suppose. Go on. That's
Not somebody as fancy as them. I've been invited to the Danish Building Ministry because they are looking for a format to where you can basically hand in LCAs. So this would basically solve that problem they have. And if LCAx got kind of accepted as a format to hand in, then it will basically be a de facto standard in Denmark, right? But I haven't talked to Building Smart or any more official bodies.
The second question is, what's the business model behind this project?
Right now, there's not really any business model for the core part. I think this is still like on an infrastructure level, and it's quite hard to have a business model on the core part, where it can turn into some kind of profit or business model, is that you can build features on top. So basically, as I showed with this, the search app, you can build things on top that then you can sell or put a license on or something, and that feeds back down into the ecosystem. So that's kind of the business model, is features or services on top that kind of leverage the data structure.
It's called open core.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Yes. If there's no more questions, then I think somebody else is in line to talk.